the way past the darkness is going through it, or to embrace it, to transmute it. To transmute the darkness, our biggest fears, to transmute it, realize we created it on some higher level, conscious level, and then transmute it and embrace it. I mean, to me, I find this fascinating to talk about. And wow, and speaking of fascinating to talk about, Ione, you're fascinating to talk to, because now we're out of time. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean,
how does this keep happening?
you guys got to slow this down, man. Come on, man. What's going on here?
Transmute time.
Transmute time. Transfer. So, Ione, listen, it's been wonderful talking with you. Just you're an incredible soul. You do incredible things. People want to reach you. They can go to IoneButler.com, upliftingcontact.com. You want to check you out, a keynote speaker at Empowered Women Rise on November 3rd. How can people find more information on that?
Yeah, if you just search Google Empowered Women Rise Conference. It's in California on the 3rd of November, and we have a discount code, EWR, Empowered Women Rise, uplift, and then you can get 15% off with that code. So yeah, we'd love to see anyone there. Be sure to come and say hi if anyone can make it.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Tune in for laughs and surprises with The Boca Show. Sundays at 4, only on 1470 WNN. Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
A bad back, heartburn, low libido, stiff joints, not sleeping well, got allergies, need to lose weight? If you want to feel better, please tune into my health talk show Sunday mornings at 10, the Dr. Bob Martin Show on Talk 1470 WNN.
Can you tell if this burger contains bacteria that could cause kidney failure? Listen. Can't, can you? You can't see it either. There's only one way to tell if you've cooked meat and poultry to a bacteria-killing temperature. Use a food thermometer. It's not an extra step or a nice to have. Raw or undercooked meat may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year, and roughly 3,000 will die. But you can keep your family safer by using a food thermometer every time. Learn more about this and other important information. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. That's foodsafety.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Confusion ever someone or have sudden you trouble had speaking, understanding?
Understanding trouble? Have you sudden have or speaking someone ever confusion?
Have you ever had sudden confusion, trouble speaking, or understanding someone?
It could be one of the 5 signs of stroke.
Sudden weakness or numbness of the face, arm, or leg.
Sudden trouble with vision in one or both eyes.
Suddenly having trouble walking or difficulty with balance.
Or a sudden intense headache that comes out of nowhere.
If you or someone you know has any of these symptoms, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. You could make a difference in someone's life, someone you love, maybe even your own.
It's late until, wait, don't too.
Don't wait until it's too late. Time lost is brain lost.
Find out more at powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Now you can get Talk 1470 WNN on 95.3 FM too. Loud and clear, Health and Wealth Radio, WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show, the place to fine-tune your swing, dress for the course, club, or cruise, and get tips on the best places to play and stay at the right price. Vacation or staycation, host Dan Shub, along with his expert co-hosts and guests, will tell you where to go. To play golf and vacation, that is. Now, here's Dan.
Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show. I'm your host, Dan Schub, and tonight, like we typically do at this time, we're going to talk a little bit of golf. We're going to talk some travel. I may send you someplace far or near on the cheap, because that's what I like to do. And in a few minutes or so, and maybe even less, we're going to be chatting with our guests for tonight. And we've got a couple tonight. We don't always have two, but tonight we do. And in studio, which is not typical. Usually we have our guests out from on the road somewhere. Tonight we've got golf journalist and good friend of mine, James Stammer, with us. And since you're here, you could say hello now, James. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here.
Welcome to the show. And I was fortunate enough today to do something that I like to do. I don't get a chance to do it as often as I would like to do, and that is to play golf with James.
Oh, I was going to say, you're really allowed to say what that was on the chair.
No, this is a family show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We like to keep it clean. We work clean here. But, yes, playing golf with James is one of my favorite things to do. And not only did I get a chance to play with James, but we had an opportunity to play a PGA Tour course, which is always a treat for any golfer. And not only that, it's a course that was just renovated. Brand new renovations took place, all new greens. And I'm talking about the Champion course at PGA National Resort and Spa up in Palm Beach Gardens here in Florida. And it's a place that James and we get a chance to play every once in a while. And because it's the home of the Honda Classic, and because they like to take good care of the guests who stay there as well, but they have to renovate it a little bit more often than a typical golf or course or resort course would be renovated. So this is a golf course that the average resort guest would play, pay a pretty penny to play, and probably be quite satisfied playing it. But the folks who play the PGA Tour, they can be a little bit picky. And,
that's one word for it.
And I suppose that there were perhaps a couple of complaints, which is no surprise, I suppose, after almost any golf tournament with the PGA players. And the course, as we were told today at the ceremony, they have to listen. So they're renovating, and it was beautiful. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of minutes. But it was a great day. But also, just a little bit later in the show, we're going to have another guest on, somebody who's a returning guest. We've had him on before. He is known as a digital titan, meaning he's kind of the father of digital photography and art, and the use of art digitally. And I'm talking about Lawrence Gartell. And Lawrence, he travels all over the world exhibiting his art. He's wrapped about 70 different high-end cars with his art. Often you'll find him at Art Basel down in Miami, but he is going to be exhibiting right here in Palm Beach County, and I'm really excited about it, at the Palm Beach Photographic Museum. November 16th is the opening reception from 6 to 8 p.m., and then running from November 17th to January 5th. Lawrence Gartell, Digital Titan. And this guy's work is just amazing if you like modern artwork. If you're a fan of Andy Warhol, he's been compared to Andy. He's worked with Andy. That's the kind of art that we're talking about, where he's a fascinating guy, literally worldwide traveler. We're going to find out a little bit more about this exhibit and just a little bit about what goes on in his world. So, and also I wanted to thank a mutual friend who recommended him to the show. That's my friend Glenn. And Glenn is a glass expert consultant for high-tech glass. He's got switchable glass. That's the kind of glass that now you see it, you flip a switch, then you can't see through it. Glass with heating elements, glass with chicken wire, glass with etchings, you name it. If it's glass, it's Glenn. You can find his work at glasspossible.com. thinkglasstechnology.com or switchableglass.net. And thanks to my friend Glenn. So let's get back to golf. In the beginning of the show, we like to talk about golf. And before we talk about what's going on in the world of golf, why don't we wrap up a little bit more about our day at PGA National? Because I don't know about you, but at my age, another 5-10 minutes and I may have forgotten.
You might forget about it.
So before we forget, while it's fresh in our mind, and that's why I grabbed you right from the golf course. We came straight here to the studio so that we could talk about this experience. Now, you're a little bit more observant than me. I go out there because I like the smell of nature, and I like to talk to the birds, and it's one of my favorite golf courses, truly, because of the birds.
You talked to a few geese today, I think it was.
I think they were ducks. You think they were geese?
They were talking to one another, and then you had to talk to them, too.
The Canadians don't come down this early.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, especially the waterfowl, the osprey. To me, it is just absolutely beautiful. And of course, this is the crowning jewel of PGA National Resort. It's one of only 5 golf courses, but this is the golf course. So. In listening to the folks at the ribbon cutting ceremony, they were talking a little bit about the work that they did, and most of it was the greens. And this is a golf course that you've lived in Florida a lot longer than myself. You've been there. I mean, when was the first time you went to the champion course at PGA National?
God, it had to be years ago when the senior championship was played there. When the PGA Senior Championship.
And many of you may not realize, but the Ryder Cup was actually played there.
Yep. On a very, very hot early September, they played the Ryder Cup in 1983,
and probably you could get a ticket for maybe $5. I bet you could get a ticket, and very few people showed up. And
guys were wilting in the fairway. It was horrible.
It was not what it is today, but this is a resort with a lot of history. Now, golf courses that are old, we like to play because they have a lot of character. But from a maintenance standpoint, there's a lot that needs to be done to keep them up to that kind of standard, right?
Yeah, especially the kind of standard that the PGA Tour wants them to be, where they want them to be when they play an event such as the Honda Classic. And that's where some of the things they had to do over the summer came in. I mean, this wasn't even something they had planned. This came about because a lot of the complaints that they got at the Honda Classic from the pros. They were very dissatisfied with the greens. They had a lot of trouble with the greens and the greens complexes over the course of the last few years.
Now, explain to the listeners who don't know a lot about greens and about grass how they intermingle. I guess they invade one another.
I mean, the whole greens complex is very complex, for lack of another word. There's irrigation underneath. There's ways to pull water and drain it out so that they don't get too wet, too soggy. There's ways to pump water into them to help them when it's too dry out. And over the course of time, usually about 8 to 10 years, so all the traffic, mowing, people walking on it and everything else, it gets so compact that the grass has a hard time growing on the green. And the grass that's on the putting surface is different than the grass that's around the edges or the collars.
Surface, I believe they said, was Tiff Dwarf, and outside, I guess it's a Bermuda.
Yeah, Tiff Eagle, and outside that it's a Bermuda. And what happens is the grass that they cannot cut to the short length that they want to putt on, it starts to invade from the sides. And over time, the green actually shrinks. So one of the things they said today was, on average, they increased the green size 800 square feet on all 18, every green.
Mm-hmm.
All 18 of them went up an average of about 800 square feet. That's a lot.
That is
that's a very big area that now allows them to...
Right, more hole placements.
Yeah, more pin placements during the
Tour really wanted as well. Not the players necessarily, but the Tour itself, so that they can have different setups every day. They're going to move the hole depending on the weather, depending on the wind, which we experienced this afternoon. They may want an easier or a more difficult pin placement. If there's no wind, they got to make it more difficult. They were running out of options. Now, they also retold the story about Jack Nicklaus, who designed the golf course, of course, famous for the bear trap, which we had an opportunity to attack or tame, as I like to say.
It beat me up a little bit.
But Jack was, the bunkers also, they over time, they're not as deep, I guess, as they used to be. They kind of, I guess the perimeter kind of caves in and makes the ground rise, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing that they said was with the greens, that the greenside bunkers, from people hitting so many shots and blowing the sand out onto the green, that adds to the height around where that is.
Yeah.
It never dawned on me. I mean, you look at the sand and it just kind of disappears.
Big deal. Yeah.
But I guess every single day, and if people are in the bunkers as often as you and I were today, that's a lot of sand that's moving.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
So it was very, very interesting.
Pushing a lot of earth around just playing golf.
But what I like about it is, of course, the best thing is to have the opportunity to play on a PGA Tour caliber course, one of the best events in all of the PGA Tour. Mm-hmm. And, of course, a lot of these golf courses, as the public, you're not allowed to play. And you can't just go there and play as a daily fee, but you can go stay at PGA National Resort. You can play the champ. You can pay a little bit more, and you can do it in season when the weather is beautiful like it was today.
Yeah. And there's caddies a little later on in the year, too.
There's caddies, yes. Or you can play in the off-season where it's a lot less money. But one way or another, to have a chance to play the champion course at PGA National Resort, I believe, and I think you agree, is something special, right?
Yeah, it is. And in the coming weeks, like they just mentioned, by the end of November, they're going to start building the grandstands that they have to have up
It
come
won't look the
February.
same then.
So even then, but then it's even more special because now you're playing the golf course just like the pros are
when
going
you
to
make
see
that
it.
birdie putt,
It's like-
you can
it's like
imagine you hear that crowd in the grandstand.
Okay, I'm going to pretend that there were 40,000 people here instead of a bunch of empty seats.
Exactly.
So it makes it kind of neat.
So it's great. So if you'd like to find out more about PGA National Resort, you can go to pgaresort.com. They've got a great website, has all the information there. And of course, James and I will both be at the Honda Classic. We'll be covering that too. So it's something that you want to check out because the only thing better perhaps than playing it is watching people who really know what they're doing play it. But,
Exactly.
But either way, it's a great thing. So thanks to the folks at PGA National Resort, our friend Karen, for hosting us over there. We appreciate it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more of the Golf and Travel Show. Stay tuned.
I'm not smart enough. My resume's not up to date. They'll never pick someone like me. No one's hiring right now. Sound familiar? Don't let you get in the way of landing your next job opportunity. Sometimes it's best to leave it up to the experts. Did you know that the last reported job openings in the U.S. as of this recording was a series high of 6.7 million jobs, and that 1.1 million of those jobs were left unfilled? This means that there's a potential opportunity that's just right for you. And at Labor Finders, we're committed to helping you find it. Whether you're entering the workforce or looking for supplemental income in a job that starts right away, we got you covered. With over 300,000 clients across the U.S. and 20,000 active daily workers, we have the network and the experience to get you your next job. Contact one of our nearly 200 offices today to see how we can help in your job search. Simply visit us online at www.laborfinders.com or connect with us on social media by searching the username LaborFinders.
And we are back. And we talk a little bit more golf. We always like to do that the first half of the show. And I noticed, well, first of all, some of the folks that we do business with are changing their style of business. We were talking a little bit out on the golf course today about our friends at Tour Edge, who we typically get to play in their tournament in January, and how all of a sudden they've signed a bunch of big-name golfers to, play their clubs. In the past, they only had people who they couldn't say who their name was.
Yeah.
So they didn't pay them.
So I won't tell you who he was, but he came in third place last week.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
So you start hunting the leaderboard down. Okay, who was this guy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand the concept of how expensive it is in the sports world to play that game, and if you're not the biggest companies, it's difficult. But they've managed to survive all these years, and I guess they were doing okay, and they decided that they needed to jump into the fray and sign up some folks, and I like it. I mean, it's got some style when you can really mention the person's name who's using your club. And I mean, we all know that just because a great pro is doing well with the club doesn't mean that we will. But it's comforting to know.
We really know that.
We definitely know that. And we would like to think that a pro is not going to play with a club that doesn't suit his game just for the money. We would like to think that. I don't know if it's always true, but
there's been a few of them that have made a rather big mistake
like Corey Pavin
by
back
switching.
In the day. That was the first example I could think of. But,
Corey Pavin's one name. Yep.
Thank goodness for the Champions Tour. He's had a chance to redeem himself now. But I noticed that another vendor, manufacturer, friend of ours in the industry just had a big signing, and as far as I know, it was
that's not a big signing. This is a huge
signing, and this is Club Champion, who we've had them on the show before. James and I have both been fitted for a driver by the folks at Club Champion.
We hit them today,
and oddly enough, the two of us have been playing golf together fairly often for about 25 years. We change drivers frequently. Me not as frequently as James. James changes frequently, like every hole frequently. And but typically, if we both hit the ball halfway decent, we hit it just about the same length.
We're within a few yards of one another.
And granted, 25 years ago, that was a longer length than it is today. But for whatever reason, we're aging gracefully at the same rate, I suppose.
Seems that way, yeah.
And but we were commenting today, and the Tim and Lee, who we played golf with today, at least to me, they were commenting that I get the club square and I hit it straight almost every time off the tee.
Yeah.
And we all know that club fitting is an added expense to club buying, but we are learning. First, we learned from them telling us, and we're always skeptical when anybody tells us something because it's not always the truth.
Yeah.
But now we learn from our own experience that club fitting is important, and having the right club for you is valuable. So while there is an expense, and the expense, of course, is for their expertise and the expensive material that they set you up with the clubs. Now we know that there's an expense to sponsor famous golfers, too, from Club Champion. But what I'm trying to say is that it's an expense that we're proving to ourselves really pays dividends.
Yeah.
So if your golf game is truly important, more important than it is to me, because obviously it's just, based on how I play, if it was too important, I'd just be in tears right now. But
we're certainly not eating with our winnings. Let's say that.
We're golf professionals because we talk about golf on the radio, not because we play so well. But Club Champion just this week signed Jordan Spieth, which was like, how do you go from having nobody?
Where did that come from?
I don't know, but it's a multi-year agreement, and three-time major winner Jordan Spieth, and he's going to be their primary brand ambassador. And he commented that he knows how important it is to have his clubs properly fitted. That's what helps him, and he just wants folks like the rest of us to be able to play better. I mean, we're not necessarily going to play like Jordan Spieth, at least most of us won't.
Yeah.
But you can play better if you have clubs that are matched for your swing.
And you got to think he's a pro. He's a touring pro. With, like you said, 3 majors. He's got to have already been fit. So he obviously knows the importance of this, and this makes him a good spokesperson for
my
this.
guess is he doesn't have the same person fitting him either. He probably found somebody that he trusts.
Is he going to get better? I mean, is this guy going to start hunting pins and becoming a sniper on tour because he's now, even better fitted than he was before
I don't
because
know.
of this?
I don't know if he could ever be better than that one run that he had when he ran up to the number one. That was just about unprecedented in golf. He was just about the hottest of anybody.
Yeah.
And we all know that it's almost impossible to keep that up for a long period of time.
A long run, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he's just kind of sitting back and waiting and just waiting for his next turn. Because he'll come back. But in any event, congratulations to Club Champion. Like I said, they're friends of ours, and I wish them the best with Jordan.
Yeah.
Also in the news, somebody that we've been talking about on and off for years, Holly Saunders.
Yes.
Okay, used to work at the Golf Channel.
Yep.
We knew people that worked at the Golf Channel as well. And we used to hear some stories about her, some behind-the-scenes stories and whatnot, and it was always interesting, let's say that. Again, family show, so we'll keep it clean. But in any event, she is not going to be doing the golf coverage on Fox any longer. She wasn't fired from the network, just relieved of her golf duty, it seems. And now she's going to be doing things like sideline reporting for football games. So
that's a big jump. I mean, you're going from the slow pace of golf to the... I mean, I think hockey's probably the only faster sport than football. I mean, when you think about how quick everything happens. Yeah, this could be interesting.
It might not be a great fit. Well, we'll have to find out.
We'll see.
We will see. Another interesting story in the golf world this week that we were talking about a little bit out there on the golf course, and that was some comments made by Bryson DeChambeau.
We thought about emulating this today.
Yeah.
Just for grins.
This is a guy that folks in the media like James and I love because he certainly is interesting and gives you something to talk about.
Yes, he does.
Sometimes it's his great golf.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just bizarre world.
It's just, has this man jumped off the deep end or what?
Right. So the last time he had something strange going on, it was because he was using a compass, and not the directional compass, the math compass on the greens to help him know exactly where his ball is, and who the hell knows how he was using it.
He said he was using it to check to see if the pin
placements was as accurate as the book.
Was as accurate as the book they hand him at the beginning of the week.
Now you're a guy who should know something about that, right? You do surveying and things.
Yeah.
I mean, they use satellites to map the greens and give them this information. Yeah. So this is pretty high tech stuff. So here's a guy who's. I mean, does he think that the Earth is flat?
I don't know.
He doesn't believe this technological information that he has to go back to use. I mean, does he go to the supermarket with an abacus?
Well,
yeah, maybe.
Like my argument when this whole thing came out about this was, well, even if it's not exactly where they tell you they put it, it's within a few inches.
Right.
And if you're that darn good and you need that information that accurate, you ought to be knocking it a lot closer to the hole than you are.
I mean, whatever happened to looking at the ball and looking at the pin and looking at the...
Now, the USG is talking about, and the tour's talking about banning those green reading books that these guys use.
Oh, maybe they should.
Because they're saying, number one, it slows everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, they just don't... They want the guys to use their eyes and their vision more and use their feel
novel.
Versus... a map they get.
I mean, like what we had to do today.
Exactly.
Why do they have to make it easier for the pros? They should make it harder for the pros, right?
Yeah, it's the other way around.
This is not fair. But the new thing now is it seems that there's a rule change that goes into effect the first of the new year, whereby you are allowed to keep the pin in when you're putting on the green.
Yes.
So he has come to the conclusion that having the pin in the hole is always an advantage.
Well, not always. In some instances, he's basically said.
I thought he said in some instances it's better, but that he was considering keeping it in all the time. It almost sounds like these football teams that are only going to go for 2-point conversions and no field goals anymore.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. And the other thing that he said was he wanted to check the coefficient of restitution of the flag. Now, each flag, I guess, is different at every golf course. They may not be the same.
Yeah, to see just how hard the ball would rebound off of that.
Right.
And to know, based on what pin they were using at what event and course, he would know whether or not he should leave them in.
I mentioned to you,
sorry,
I know I'm baffled because it seems to me that he has to hit the ball hard enough to fall into the cup. And that should be the first priority. How could you worry about how hard you hit the pin? And it's like hit it hard enough to fall in. And I guess, now, and some folks comment.
The guy's got a lot of free time on his hands.
I guess
apparently.
so. And they said, on a downhill putt, that may make a lot of sense because if the ball is picking up speed as it's going downhill, that may stop it from going as far past. Okay. I get that. On an uphill putt, I mean, it sounds to me, it's like this is like a bank shot in basketball. I mean, it's kind of passé. They don't bank shot anymore.
No, it's all net or you go home.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, is he going to plan to bank it off the pin? I mean, is this what he's going after?
It's weird. Who knows? I give up.
I mean, I don't think that the pin companies, are going to be rich enough to be offering him a sponsorship. That he's trying to get a sponsorship from a pin company. I mean, what the...
And who knows? Now is the tour going to have to go out there and put a sleeve of some sort over each pin so that each pin
is
at every tournament is consistently the same?
Right.
Oh boy.
I don't know, but as I said, he gives guys like you and me something to talk about, if nothing else,
or scratch our heads about.
Exactly. Let's see. We want to talk about this story here. I saw it in the news. You saw it in the news too. We were talking about it today as well. It seems that a fellow by the name of Gus Andreone passed away this past week.
Yep.
And he was the oldest living member of the PGA, living in Sarasota, and died at the age of 107.
107.
I mean, unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's still teaching golf. And
he's survived by his wife, who's 101.
Exactly. Now...
Some good genes, man.
Either that or she was just real happy because he was out playing golf all the time, leaving her alone. I don't know. But it's sad, but maybe not so sad. I mean, talk about leading a full life,
Yeah, he did. So, he was a veteran of World War II, survived the Battle of the Bulge. And, like, I even found out earlier, talk about a charmed life. He won the Pennsylvania lottery when he was in his 70s.
And I think you had mentioned that he got a hole-in-one.
And he got a hole-in-one at 100. His last round of golf...
Right before he retired.
Was right before at 104, he retired, and he had a hole-in-one.
Unbelievable.
Guy was charmed, I'm telling you.
He sure was. All right, I think what we are going to do is we're going to take another quick break for a message from our sponsor, and then we're going to be talking to our digital titan, Lawrence Gartell, we're going to be talking about his exhibit that's going to be opening up November 17th through January 5th at the Palm Beach Photographic Museum. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned, and we'll be back with more of the Golf and Travel Show.